Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Kirsty and this is Stuck in the Mud. If you enjoy my video today and you find it really helpful, if you could give it a thumbs up, that would help so much, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, so we can help more people with OCD and anxiety. In today's video, I'm talking about catastrophizing and what it's taught me the last 40 years, because this is how long I have been experiencing this for. My OCD started when I was a little girl. I was probably around the age of 5, and that is my first memory of when it all began. And catastrophizing is something I've done from such a young age, and I often wonder, and I have done in recent years, tried to kind of figure out, well, where did this all begin? Were there some kind of outside influences that may have triggered OCD in me? I do believe that biologically we are more predisposed to develop OCD, and maybe some factors in our environment can trigger it. And I often wondered about that. And there is certain things, I was aware of things as a child, like my sister being in a very serious accident and other family things that, were kind of the worst case scenarios. And this is what catastrophizing is. We often will catastrophize, and that is all about looking for the worst case scenario, whether that's happening currently or in an imagined future scenario. And we can really feel the anxiety and all the kind of emotions of that, even if it's not an actual real event that's happening right now. We're actually feeling all the emotions of that perceived event that could happen in the future, but maybe not, because it's all imagined. We're just thinking the worst case scenario. And I do recall when I was younger, I would always do this. My OCD was largely around protecting my family, and a lot of my rituals were around this. I would perform certain rituals to keep them safe while they weren't with me. So when I was at school as a small child, I would do these rituals, so I'd think that I'd protect them when they weren't with me. And I remember one instance as a small child of, I think my mum was taking me home for lunch, and this particular day she didn't show up to pick me up. And my first thought was, what if she's in an accident? She's been in a terrible accident, and what's happened? I need to find out. And that was a very young age that I thought to kind of think something like that. I was imagining the very worst case scenario, that somebody's been killed in an accident. I was there already. There was no kind of gradual build up. It was like I was there. I was going to that worst possible case. And, it's interesting because I was so young as well. And she was just late. She was late and, showed up pretty soon after that. But, I was such a small child, I think, to kind of even have that kind of outlook maybe, but it's something I've definitely done all throughout my life. And really this video is to show that what that has actually taught me. Looking back on my life, I've often thought, was this some way of trying to prepare myself for worst case scenarios, and just mentally preparing like how I would react in that situation, and not that that is helpful, because it really isn't, because life is unpredictable and OCD wants certainty. And when you do have OCD and you really suffer from it, you want 100% certainty, and you want to have that assurance that that is not going to happen. So I think with the catastrophizing, I have often myself have thought, well, it's like preparing yourself for worst case scenarios, and you feel like you have some kind of control over it. That's what we want as with OCD. We want control over our lives, and we can't have that. And that is what all these years have taught me, that things have happened, both negative and positive, and I haven't been able to control that. And the big lesson here was my parents. I often was so, I was so upset about and feared loss with my family, and that was definitely behind a lot of my OCD growing up, was protecting my family. and the fear of loss. And when they both became seriously ill, you know, my mum had cancer twice, my dad has had cancer twice, and, you know, there was a lot of uncertainty around that time. You know, there was a lot of fear around, you know, their prognosis and how they would be. And thankfully they both were well. I mean, obviously, if you've watched my other videos, my mum has passed away in the last year and a half. So it's been difficult because she did pass away from cancer in the end. You know, it came back, and it's been hard, you know, because they were all I wanted to protect throughout my life. I was always very aware of the fact they were getting older. And it's always something I've thought about that growing up. You know, I was very attuned to the fact that my parents had me at an older age. You know, I think my mum was 38, my dad was 45. You know, I was the youngest of three girls. And talking about those family situations that happened, I was very aware that my mum had a stillborn after my eldest sister arrived. And so there was some maybe memories of that. I was very aware of that. I don't know, like I say, I'm not blaming any of this, you know, it's just, I often wonder, you know, why I was so sensitive to all of the things surrounding loss and danger. And I've often wondered if there was any correlation between that. Maybe not, but it's just something I have questioned in recent times. And going through my parents' illnesses, you know, I don't really remember, but it probably happened at the time where you'd question, well, didn't I do my rituals enough? You know, didn't I protect them well enough? And that's when we often feel those emotions of guilt and blame, you know, because when we have that need to carry out those compulsions and something then negative happens, you know, something, you know, difficult happens within your family, and you know, you start to question, well, didn't I not do enough? And I think back then I was going through a better time in my life, and I didn't buy into what OCD was telling me, because throughout my life I've definitely had lots of, you know, times when I would say OCD wasn't particularly controlling me. I've been able to live day to day quite normally, you know, but it's just there in the background. I would never say I've fully healed from it until more recently, where I really don't buy into its lies anymore. And I definitely see it from a different perspective now. You know, it's all about changing my relationship with my thoughts. But I've had some really down times as well, where it's just completely taken over. And I've struggled to just function and manage every day, because it's been so loud and so controlling of my every move, you know, my every action, my every thought. It's just been there constantly, and those are difficult times. And I really, you know, I have a lot of empathy for anyone going through it, because it is so debilitating. It's so distressing and frightening, and I get it. I've been there many times. I just hope others can see that, and see that, you know, you can get better from this. You can learn to change perspective on it, because that's where I am now, and I don't have that same relationship with OCD anymore. You know, I can really step back from it and look at it a completely different perspective. It's not in the driving seat. It's not controlling me anymore. I'm aware of it. I know it's there. You know, I often get catastrophic thoughts now. You know, I still get them. It's normal to a certain extent. You know, we always as humans go to the negative bias. I think it's just a natural part of us. We're looking for danger, and it's unfortunate that, you know, I have grown up always maybe thinking, oh, what's the worst case scenario? It's just not a nice way to live. And I kind of thought everybody did that, if I'm not completely honest. I thought everybody kind of lives their life like that, because I did, you know. I'd hear certain things and I would kind of jump to the worst case thing to happen. You know, it's not nice. And this is why cognitive behavioral therapy didn't work that well for me, because you would often have to re-rate your thoughts and look at it from a different perspective, which is different to what I was talking about earlier, because I'm talking about metacognitive therapy. I've learned to stand back from it and detach from my they're not even my thoughts, just thoughts. And with CBT, I would have to re-rate how I was feeling. And the problem is, all of my worst case scenarios were really resulting in death. It was just like, that was the point, that was the end point. Because I think a lot of my fears, and it'll go to your values. So everybody's catastrophic thinking is going to be different. Mine was around loss and death, and that's kind of been the theme throughout my life. And like I said, it's only really now in the last few years I'm really kind of starting to see that and really heal from that, and recognize that, you know, the way my thinking has become over the years, and the way I always reach for those kind of worst case scenarios and like trying to prepare myself, but that's no way to live, and it hasn't stopped anything. You know, life happens to people, good and bad. You know, we get loads of the good, we get some of the bad, it's different for everyone, and you know, we can't control that. We can't control what happens. We can control, though, how we react and how we react to these thoughts, because that is important. We can change how we react to that, and that's where you can make a change and actually start helping yourself, because thoughts happen, but thinking we do have some control over. And this is the healing I have been doing in the last few years, is recognizing that I'm going to get these thoughts. So if I get a catastrophic thought about something, you know, that can be automatic thoughts, but I don't have to get involved with them. I don't have to hook into them and start questioning them and trying to, you know, work out, well, what chance is there of this happening or that happening, or, you know, I'm too far into it then. I'm getting involved, and my brain's saying, this is important, we need to figure this out and try and prevent this from happening. But if I actually take a step back and view it as kind of just a passing event in the mind and let it be there, and it's very, very important to say with this, we're not trying to stop thoughts. We're not trying to, you know, we're not pushing them away, because that's just going to backfire. It makes them come back stronger, because, you know, you can't kind of, with your brain is just going to know. If you're trying to push that out, it's because you don't want it, and your brain's going, well, this is important, and it will just send more of it. You know, we've got to be kind of blasé about it and just be like, you know, okay, there's one of those thoughts again. And I know this sounds so easy. I know it sounds easy, and I know it's very hard. We have to look at it as learning like a new skill, or anything we might involve ourselves in that needs to be learned, because this is the thing with getting better from OCD. It takes time. It's not going to be a quick fix. We have to kind of really commit to making a change, and making a change with our behavior is going to be hard. It's going to take some time, because we have often learned these things over many years, and myself, you know, like I say, over, you know, I'm looking at 40 years here of doing the same kind of things and repeating the same kinds of behavior. And this just means that it's become so normal in my life to think certain ways and produce, you know, certain biases with things, because, like I said, it's just been going round and round and round. You know, just in the background there, it's just been running riot all these years, and I haven't really consistently done the work to really keep it where it should be, and that's just running on in the background. It's not interfering with my life day to day, and that's only happened in recent years, where I've really committed fully to the metacognitive therapy and let those thoughts just be there, you know. And I get days when I'm stuck. It's not, I'm not saying this is going to miraculously take OCD away. And I think this is where a lot of people, and myself included, have failed at getting better, because we want that quick fix. We want it to go away. We want it gone. And it doesn't always work that way. We have to change our relationship with our thoughts and recognize that they don't pose danger. Yes, things happen in life and we can deal with those when they happen. And that's what I did when I've been in situations where it's produced a lot of fear and a lot of confusion, especially around my family, which is where a lot of my strong values were with OCD, and a lot of my obsessions were around this kind of thing. And, I really put a lot of weight in the value of that for me. And I've learned kind of coping strategies over the years which haven't helped get better and actually recover to a point where it's not interfering so much anymore. But in the last few years, I've made leaps and strides in actually being much more aware of when I'm getting involved with my OCD, and recognizing that and taking a step back and just letting it play out. And it really is life transforming. And I say this as someone who has really struggled and really been at the lowest of the lows, over the years with OCD and anxiety. And I've really consistently made those changes with my behaviors, and I'm not saying it's going to be really easy, but when we can bring that awareness to the fact that we're getting hooked in, we know it's OCD, it's hard because we think of it as being like, well, this could happen. It's, we want certainty, and we can't live like that. And that's really what has taught me the last 40 years, of catastrophizing, that things happen and I didn't have any control over that. And by me not carrying out my rituals well enough, or doing any kind of thing to stop things from happening to my family, it didn't make any difference. It still happened. And it's taught me a lot, I guess, since losing my mum. And, it's been as hard as it's been, but it's actually taught me a lot as well. And, I didn't think I would survive after losing my mum, it's because I miss her so much. And, and it can be difficult some days, but in my head, that would finish me. And it didn't happen that way. The way my mind was catastrophizing over the future and how I would cope, I didn't have to figure all that out back then, because when the time came and things happened and I had no control over that, I dealt with them. And this is what my therapist was always very good at saying to me, if something happens, you'll deal with it. I don't know. It's a difficult one. It's something I probably still work with to a degree. I do get those catastrophic thoughts. I still get them. But I am approaching them a lot different now. Take that step back and just see them as thoughts, because that's all they are. Pushing it out, it's not going to help. Not trying to stop it's not going to help. We just have to let it ride it out for as long as it wants. And that's going to be difficult at first, because for a time we might feel that increased anxiety. But once you kind of build that tolerance to that, and that will subside with time. And the more we consistently practice this, and that's all it's about. It's just about doing this more, especially with metacognitive therapy. We just need to keep practicing. These are opportunities. When we get these catastrophic thoughts, they're opportunities to take a step back from it and just look at it for what it is, just a thought. And as easy as it is to say that, that's what it is. And I know it's hard to let that go, but the more we can practice it and realize that, we're going to get better. We don't have to have OCD ruling our lives anymore. We deserve to live our lives fully without being limited by its lies and, its deception, because it's not real. It's easy to say, just leave them there and let the thoughts ride out. And I know that's easier said than done, but with practice it can happen and you can get better. And I really hope these videos are helping you to see that. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope, you have found this video useful today and hearing about my experience with catastrophic thinking. Let me know if this is something you've experienced too in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.